Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon.
Taking control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all connected but separated, misunderstood and so frustrated. A million armies of one have invaded, watching you and watching me. We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye, we're the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. We the people have taken over. We the people are little brother, standing by to dethrone each other, watching you and watching me. Paranoid, the lens is our weapon, desensitized in our lust for attention, democratized by our voyeur obsessions, watching you and watching me. Slaves to perfection, don't let them project you as you are. Reveal your every flaw. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye, we're the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. I know you're out there somewhere. This is the new totalitarian state. 1,000 eyes are waiting for you to break. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching. We watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We will expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Let your experience begin right now. From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio. You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride as we are live on Spaced Out Radio.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, and thank you so much for listening in at spacedoutradio.com and on Spreaker. As once again we come in from the frozen Canadian tundra, battle our way past the wild animals, sidestep Bigfoot, and enter Uncle Jimbo's cabin, stoke the fire, heat this place up, broadcast to you live this Friday night, early Saturday morning if you're on the East Coast. Here at Spaced Out Radio, we broadcast 3 hours a night, 7 days a week. That's because we want to be your official one-stop shop when it comes to the supernatural, extraterrestrial, paranormal, conspiratorial, and so much more. Hey, if you like our music, Spaced Out Radio's theme music is courtesy of the guitar god himself, Ron Bumblefoot THAL. And if you go to our website, spacedoutradio.com, you can actually download his latest album, Little Brother Is Watching. If you're on social media, you can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. And of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. At this time, we'd like to send a shout out to our fans listening in on the SHR Media Network in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker, along with our fans on Facebook at Euphoria Chronicles and the SOR Space Travelers, as well as online at Paranormal Forum. If you're a fan of Spaced Out Radio, coming soon, and it's only a couple weeks away, the Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers membership, where for only $5 a month, just $5, you can enter to win prizes, take part in private group interviews, have a special section on our website, and much more. Hey, we're going to give you a hell of a lot more than just access to our archives. Tonight's show is brought to you by Rivulet Reiki and Readings, providing healings in person or at a distance. PurplePlates.com, helping heal your body, mind, and soul. 80,000 people a month read the new Agora newspaper, and the iTunes app Spirit Storybox, the official ghost hunting app of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight on SOR, our Keith Andrews is back for his monthly appearance on the Alien Connection. The first Friday of every month, Keith comes in to help experiencers understand what is going on with their contact with those from another world. It happens the first Friday of every month, which is, once again, tonight. Keith has had extraterrestrial contact since he was a child, and as much as And as much abuse as he takes, Keith is a special person with contact with over 30 different species of off-worlders. Yes, many people think he may be stretching the truth, but Keith really has nothing to hide. He's not looking for press. He's not looking to make money off of this. He doesn't have anything to flog. It's about him actually caring and helping other people who've had experiences. From the Greys to the Pleiadians, Keith shares his personal contact and is also here for you to understand what you are going through. So, on this show, there are no phone calls. All the questions must come from the chat rooms, either on Spreaker, Paranormal Forum, or on Facebook in the SOR Space Travelers room. We bring in our Keith Andrews tonight on Space Out Radio. Keith, it's been a month. How you been, my friend? Keith, are you there? Because I am not hearing you. We may be having a little bit of a Skype problem here. 1 second here. I'm going to give Keith a quick call back because we seem to have hit a little snafu there. So let's give Keith a call right back. You know, kind of kills the momentum when you're trying to get things going here. Let's see. Keith has no answer on his phone. Let's try Skype once again. You know, sometimes we have these technical issues. Keith, we are having some problems here with trying to connect to your Skype. I'm going to try your phone number if you don't mind. We're going to give this a call, and maybe we can do it that way, because obviously Skype is not liking the connection between you and me tonight, and I know you're listening in. So let us try and get a hold of Keith here. And that's not working. Son of a gun. You know, we actually did have him right before the break. So we're going to try Keith here once again. Maybe this time it'll work. As we wait for a connection. Somebody obviously does not want to have us on the air tonight, because now it's saying we have an invalid phone number. Son of a gun. What is going on here? You know what? This is why we love live radio. Because when the problems happen like this, we just got to roll through it. That was weird because Keith and I were just talking right before the break. I was on a good roll. Yes, I was. Keith may have to reboot his computer. I'm just typing him a quick note here. The one thing I like about Keith being on the air with us every month is that he gives you an opportunity to all of a sudden come on out and enjoy and relax and really try to understand what is going on in the ET world. Because, you know what, there's a lot of people out there who have questions, and when they have questions, we have to be able to provide answers, especially when it comes to something like extraterrestrial contact. Because if you don't have the people out there who can actually answer the questions that you want, you're not going to figure out what's going on. You're not going to get them from TV. You're not going to get them from hearing leading researchers who are focused strictly on disclosure now. You're going to be hearing them from people like Keith, Samantha Mowat, shows like this. So when you are having your contact, or whether you're asking for contact or not, or whether you have never had contact and you're trying to get things going, what you need to do is you need to be able to listen to the people who have the answers. They may sound like they are full of crap. They may sound like they don't know what they're talking about, or they seem a little bit over-aggressive with things. It's because they know. Keith is trying to call in. We're just waiting for him. Hopefully it's not my Skype, because I have rebooted my computer. We're going to hop out, take a quick commercial break right now. We're going to try and reconnect with Keith, and then we'll be right back. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. Talk to you in a couple minutes.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
Hi there. This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 Mediums and a Large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. We're starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up. Enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Hi there, this is Elizabeth Anglin, and on the last Monday of every month, I join Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's Cosmic Passport. We delve into everything from extraterrestrial contact to animal communication. It's a lot of fun, and every month it's something different and exciting. I would love it if you would join us. You can hear and learn from my experiences, and I'd like to know about yours as well. Cosmic Passport on spacedoutradio.com.
Hey everybody, this is Patrick Webster Small, and I'm here to bring you the Webster Phenomena every Saturday night, live at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. If you're looking for aliens and extraterrestrials, well, we've got them. Big and tall, short and small. You're bound to find what you're looking for, so join me on the Webster Phenomena right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Have you ever wondered about those weird and strange creatures people have reported throughout history? Do you wonder if those stories are real? Me too, and that's why I started Cryptopia.us. Hey, this is Rob Morphy, crypto historian. Join me once a month on Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott, where we will get into the odd and bizarre reports, from the Dover Demon to hairy hominids and everything in between. I will break down what people like you and me are seeing at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost?
Look no further than Spaced Out Radio.
SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click on to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on radio
or our website, including social media.
From commercial spots to banners, we have it all.
Check out our competitive pricing today.
Want to connect with us online? Find us on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show, on Twitter, @Spaced Out Radio, on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR, on YouTube, Spaced Out Radio Show, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. All right, space travelers, here comes the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. Well, we're still in the first half hour here, but we've solved our Skype issues as our Keith Andrews is with us tonight on the mighty Spaced Out Radio. Keith, how you doing?
Well, frustrated with technology, but I'm here. How about you?
Well, I'm not too bad. You know what? This damn Skype thing, it can act up sometimes, and sometimes it can be your best friend, sound like you're sitting right beside me, and other times it just doesn't want to play well. But we got it organized, we got it all figured out, and our audience is itching at the panel to get some questions to you. What's new in the ET world for you in the last month since we talked?
Well, I've been watching a lot of the conversations going on, both off-world and on-world, and people seem to have this brilliant idea. They are still tied up on the idea that there is some sort of a massive invasion gearing up to happen, and it confuses me. It also confuses a lot of the off-worlders, because none of them are looking at invading or conquering or, controlling mankind. In all fairness, somebody probably should. But the reality, what I've been dealing with for the most part is trying to figure out with the assistance of people from many different races, humans included, how to get it across to people that whether we are dealing with off-worlders, ancient races, or humans, or any number of other odds and ends, we're still dealing with people. We're dealing with people that have been here for thousands upon thousands of years. And it's just kind of along the same lines as trying to get used to the idea that there's somebody in your neighborhood that you didn't know was there. Okay, the local recluse that nobody has seen in years and all of a sudden starts poking their nose out. Well, that's pretty much what we're looking at. Okay, so it boils down to trying to figure out how to get people to realize this isn't, yes, there are wars going on world and off world, which just goes to show that just because people have bigger toys or have more advanced technology does not mean they figured out all the solutions that are out there. So I've been spending a lot of time with these different races going, look, you've got wars going on all over the place. People think you're trying to get ready to gear up for war here. And, of course, the usual comment there is, well, if we were going to have a war against humans, the war would be over before you guys knew about it. They're not interested in from the human standpoint, they're not interested in invading the planet. But it is kind of, in their eyes, and I am speaking in general terms for the moment, but it's kind of like trying to move into the Amazon for the off-worlders. It's kind of like trying to move into the Amazon where you've got no technology to speak of, and you've got a bunch of little ants that are ants and little dangerous fish that are trying to kill you just because you're standing there and because you look a little different. This is where we're having some interesting situations. Okay, so that's...
And I can understand that, because for a lot of people dealing with how long this has actually been going on, this isn't just since a Roswell thing. I mean, there are shows on television about ancient aliens. There are people addressing this situation of how long contact has been going on with human beings here on planet Earth. But the one thing that I can say, Keith, is it important for us to learn that maybe the Egyptians were helped with the pyramid building because of extraterrestrials? Is it important to learn that they helped Noah's Ark stay safe if Noah's Ark truly existed? Is it important for us to learn the history of extraterrestrial contact when really this hasn't been in the news unless it's been in the last 70 years? So is it important?
It sort of depends on who you ask. In my opinion, frankly, how they got here is the least of people's concerns. The fact that they are here is of critical importance. Now, is it important from a socioeconomic standpoint for those that are curious about the evolution of mankind? Absolutely. But those same people that are interested in aliens to that context would also be interested in the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. Okay. To understand where mankind is standing, yes, knowing what they've been up to, the benefits that they've done, and conversely, the problems that they've caused, is an important aspect in as much as it answers questions. The thing people have to remember, though, and this is where it gets confusing, is that history is written by the victors or by the survivors, and has been proven multiple times in Earth's own history. It gets rewritten every time somebody new comes into power.
Gail in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Facebook, the SOR Space Travelers, is asking, Keith, who is perpetuating this invasion rumor then?
Anybody in power, anybody that has a little bit of fear, anybody that doesn't want to look in the mirror at their own culpability in their own life. The reality is, Gail, that if somebody wants to point the finger elsewhere so they don't have to look at themselves or so other people don't look at them, those are the ones that will perpetuate this rumor. Now, of course, if we go back into the 1970s when the TV series V came out, TV miniseries, that did a wonderful job of setting the stage for reptilians to catch the brunt of it. Okay. And of course, sadly, most people are not willing to accept that humans can be that dense and that cruel to each other that humans could possibly be the people orchestrating the atrocities that are happening to their own people.
Interesting. Very interesting indeed. There's so much that can be made in regards to this, and so many different ways and rumors. We're focusing the last couple of nights, Keith, on disclosure. And we're focusing very, very much on this because we are broadcasting, and one of the main broadcasters for the Alien Cosmic Expo in Brantford, Ontario, June 24th to 26th. And last night, Victor Vigiani was on the air with us, and we were talking about disclosure, about who it's going to be. And his opinion, and I never really thought about it this way, but his opinion is a country like Canada that has nothing to lose, nothing to gain, might be the perfect country to actually start disclosure. What would your opinion be on that?
Well, much as I absolutely agree with that concept that Canada would be one of the best possible, disclosure's already started.
Yes, we know that. But I guess what I'm saying is, for people, we can get the ball rolling. You can get a snowball started off on the top of a hill. But until the bigwigs come out and start talking about it themselves, more so than John Podesta and Hillary Clinton, we really have to push that ball on our own. We have to make it happen. But until the people above us, little peons, start acknowledging it, this little snowball is never going to get the momentum to gain any strength going down the hill.
Not entirely correct. Do understand that when you take a look, let's just take a look at the government of Canada. Okay, let's make it even easier. Take a look at any city with 100,000 people. You'll have somewhere between 200 and 300 people that are running the city. Those are the so-called leaders, the people in control, the people in power, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Those 200 people or 300 people are not the ones that need to acknowledge something is happening. It's the other people that have to ignore the so-called upper class or the people in power that are saying it's not happening. Okay, think of it this way. Do you need somebody with a degree in political science to tell you it's raining?
No.
Okay. The weatherman can stand there and tell you, and I've heard the weatherman do it, where they will stand there and tell you there is a 0% chance of rain. These are the professionals that know what is going on. And I've seen them do it, I've heard them do it in the middle of a torrential downpour. So it's time for people to wake up and realize that disclosure is already happening. And it isn't the people in the traditional spots of power that are going to be bringing it through. Mm-hmm. They will admit to it only when they have no other option, which means the rest of the population says, it's already happened. Would you mind acknowledging it?
I understand that. Keith, we have about a minute left before we're going to hop out for a quick break here because we just want to make sure everything technically is going just fine. When you look at disclosure, though, do you believe in your mind, 60 seconds or less, that it's going to come from the USA if Hillary gets in?
No. She will build her platform and then double back on herself. It's that simple. Because it's not economically functional for her to admit, to prove, if you will, to the American peoples in specific about the amount of assassinations and deceptions that have happened at the hands of their own peoples in order to keep this thing secret. Which, by the way, they haven't done well at.
Well, you know what? It's going to cause a lot of hypochondriacs out there if it doesn't happen. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Absolutely.
You know, that's just the way it's going to be. It's going to go absolutely haywire if she goes back on her word for disclosure, because that'll really piss off John Podesta, and you know that's the reason why he took the job, was because of that, and that's part of their agreement. I don't know if it's contractual or not, but it's very interesting indeed. Keith, I'm going to get you to hold on. Our Keith Andrews on tonight on Spaced Out Radio, The Alien Connection. We do it the first Friday of every month. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be back after this break.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
Hi there. This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 Mediums and a Large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up. Enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Hi there, this is Elizabeth Anglin, and on the last Monday of every month, I join Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's Cosmic Passport. We delve into everything from extraterrestrial contact to animal communication. It's a lot of fun, and every month it's something different and exciting. I would love it if you would join us. You can hear and learn from my experiences, and I'd like to know about yours as well. Cosmic Passport on spacedoutradio.com.
Hey everybody, this is Patrick Webster Small, and I'm here to bring you the Webster Phenomena every Saturday night, live at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. If you're looking for aliens and extraterrestrials, well, we've got them. Big and tall, short and small. You're bound to find what you're looking for, so join me on the Webster Phenomena right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Have you ever wondered about those weird and strange creatures people have reported throughout history? Do you wonder if those stories are real? Me too, and that's why I started Cryptopia.us. Hey, this is Rob Morphy, crypto historian. Join me once a month on Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott, where we will get into the odd and bizarre reports, from the Dover Demon to hairy hominids and everything in between. I will break down what people like you and me are seeing at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost?
Look no further than Spaced Out Radio.
SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click on to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on radio
or our website, including social media.
From commercial spots to banners, we have it all.
Check out our competitive pricing today.
Want to connect with us online? Find us on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show, on Twitter, @Spaced Out Radio, on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR, on YouTube, Spaced Out Radio Show, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. All right, space travelers, here comes the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. Welcome back to the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're listening in on the SHR Media Network, out on Paranormal Forum, in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker, or on Facebook at Euphoria Chronicles or the SOR Space Travelers, appreciate you tuning in with us. Tomorrow night and Sunday, Uncle Jimbo, James Tyson, is back in the hot seat. I've got my bags packed. I'm heading out into the wilderness to find my Zen, my Chi, but I will find a good cave here in the mountains to try and get a good Wi-Fi signal to listen to Spaced Out Weekend on Saturdays and Sunday night. Elizabeth Anglin hosting the first hour of the show. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. That's where we put our archives. And our website is spacedoutradio.com. It is getting revamped once again. We bring in our Keith Andrews once again. We've got all our technical situations figured out. We are good to go. And Keith, welcome back.
Well, thank you for having me.
We're going to get right into the questions here because there's always questions when you are on the air. These are coming from the SOR Space Travelers Room on Facebook. Joseph is asking, what's the best way for self-defense against aliens if they attack us, like in our home?
Well, that sort of depends. It's a good question, don't get me wrong. But it really depends on who is doing the attacking, or what is doing the attacking. Because, you know, the biggest thing you got to realize, Greys, for instance, are not physically adept, but they can paralyze you without even thinking about it because of their technology. If you take a look at, like, the best way I can put it is this: if they've already gotten into your house, the odds are you're not going to be able to defend yourself aside from stay calm and talk to them as rationally as you can get away with. Because they rely on their whole work, for the most part, relies on you being calm enough that they can get the readings they're looking for. And if you can set up some sort of a dialogue, it will stop the conflict problem in most cases. But, you know, the idea of trying to overpower them, you know, that works great if you happen to be trained in self-defense yourself, as in physical self-defense. But most people that the off-worlders pick up aren't trained in that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next question comes from Galen in the SOR Space Travelers Room on Facebook. Why does it seem the ancient people knew a lot about aliens contact in a more open manner instead of now?
That's because modern politicians and modern religious peoples have designated for society around the world that, first of all, man is the top of the totem pole, and therefore they have managed to propagate the following belief structure. Fear that which you don't understand. That which you fear, strive to control. That which you cannot control, strive to destroy. And that which you cannot destroy, fear. The ancient humans, way back, ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, that sort of thing, had the idea that these were people from the gods. These were people that had more knowledge than they did, and therefore knowledge was revered. Because they had knowledge, it wasn't a strength or a show of might that got the ancient Egyptians to pay attention to the off-worlders. It was a show of technology. It was a show of knowledge. That is what got their attention. And the people in power, in modern power, as in your politicians, your leading clergy, even your leading pedagogical institutions, the schools, are of the opinion that if you've got a brain, you're dangerous, and therefore you should be feared, and that is propagated throughout society.
Makes sense. Michelle in the SOR Space Travelers room is asking, Keith, what do you know about Wave X, and do you believe in it?
Well, Wave X, I haven't done a whole lot of research into it, but my suspicion, and correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but my suspicion is it is a new type of energy that mankind has picked up. Now, the fact that it's being called Wave X says they haven't identified it. There are a lot of different wavelengths and different wave intensities that mankind hasn't even begun to understand. So the moment that we start talking about Wave X, I'm not entirely certain which one we're referring to, but I'm going to put my foot in my mouth on this one. But take a look at gravity. Mankind thinks it knows how gravity works. It doesn't. But it has got a functionally working method whereby at least they can work with it. Quite frankly, they understand it backwards. When you take a look at thought itself is a wavelength that can be tracked and that creates a shockwave in front of it, which, quite frankly, scientifically, will eventually prove precognition works, and telepathy.
I've never heard of it. I'm going to be honest, I'll play the dumb card on this one, and maybe I should, but it's one of those things that, there always seems to be something popping out every few months, and I am a virgin when it comes to Wave X, I can tell you that.
Well, my biggest concern is the moment that people are calling it that, what it literally means is wave unknown.
Right.
Right.
No, absolutely. But I want to talk more about, Keith, a lot of people out there are having contact. It's happening on a daily, sometimes weekly, sometimes monthly basis, wherever it may be, in regards to their own personal contact. We always hear people, Keith, say, I don't care if it's good or bad. I just need to know that these things are real, that extraterrestrials are visiting this planet. And we've talked a number of times on this show about it being be careful what you wish for. We've said that so many times on this show. When someone tries to put out the energy that they want to make contact, is there a security that they can put in place to make sure that they aren't calling the wrong species out there?
Well, simply put, I'd love to say yes, but no. If you're putting a beacon out and you're broadcasting a beacon, broadcasting a request, I want contact, and I'm really not overly fussy about who. What it boils down to is it'll be the first race that picks it up and pays attention to it is going to jump on it. The first one that gets an inkling. But there is no safeguard, the only way you could have a safeguard is if you happen to know the specific frequency of a specific race you were aiming for, or a specific ship, or a specific, conclave. If you knew the exact frequency you were aiming for, or the exact name, then certainly that would help. But for just putting out a thought pattern of, I really want to have proof. Okay. The other problem with that, of course, is everybody's individual concept of what proof is a problem. Okay. So we're looking at a situation here of, what do you call proof? If you take a look at the frailty of the human mind, what happens if a ship all of a sudden shows up? Well, the first thing that happens, let's say it shows up in clear view for you, for you as an individual, and it turns around and you go, oh wow, okay, I've seen it. Now, you've got concrete proof. You've seen this ship without a question in your heart until you open your mouth and tell somebody. And then the people that are in even the people that claim to believe in the UFO phenomenon, 9 times out of 10, they'll tell you you're out of your mind. They'll tell you it was your imagination. It's not proof. Okay. The odd part about it is that it crosses all sorts of borders. But when you start looking at proof, you really have to ask what you're going to call proof. It took me years to simply go, look, I just can't argue the point anymore. I'm going to have to deal with the reality that this is happening, and I don't have an answer as to exactly why.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it, Dave. What do you consider proof of an off-world event? Well, that elicited dead silence. Are you there?
I am totally here.
Okay.
I'm thinking about this, and there is no subtle answer to that, because I am an experiencer, and I am someone who already believes that they are here. I am someone who believes that there are vast differences in the species of extraterrestrial that are visiting.
Absolutely.
And so disclosure for me personally has already happened. But when it comes to what I would like to see happen, I think it runs twofold. Number one, there has to be another government official, much like Paul Hellyer, except maybe way younger, someone in their 30s, 40s, 50s, maybe even early 60s, to stand up, go against the grain while in office, or maybe just retired from office, to say they're here.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think we need to see happen is we need the mainstream media to stop telling us about what is happening in Hollyweird and get to the real stories that are out there, because the media is showing their true colors. And like Victor Vigiani and I were talking last night, when they are not covering what Hillary has been stating, or John Podesta has been stating for the last number of months, or, well, for John Podesta, over a year and a bit now, that he joined Hillary's campaign specifically because of disclosure of UFOs. Until the media starts reporting on this, taking these stories seriously without the smart-ass remarks before or after showing a clip or playing a story, without the stupid music. We don't need to hear Star Trek music. We don't need to hear X-Files music or the other Twilight Zone music. Just play it like you would a normal story. You're not doing that in a normal story. And when they start taking this seriously, then we can start taking disclosure seriously. Because right now, the media is treating this as foolishness. And they are degrading the experiences that thousands upon hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people on a daily basis around this world are having. Whether it's good contact or whether it's absolute nightmarish hell.
Well, much as I agree with you that the media is taking it lightly, the sad part about it is, let's take the media out of the picture because, let's face it, the media isn't the big problem. The media is just the visible one. The big problem is the people, is the population, the people that the media comes from. That the politicians come from. When you've got somebody that you've already told you believe that aliens are here, and then somebody else, a friend of yours, comes to you and says, gee, I had an encounter, and you turn around and tell them, I don't believe you, that's not possible. That is society going, we're telling you that we believe, but we really don't. We actually are making it so it sounds really trippy. But the unfortunate reality is that people take a look at the media and go, it's the media's fault. Well, the reality is the media wouldn't have that much weight if people didn't pay attention to them. Okay, people talk about, for instance, and this applies across the board. People talk about, the fact that politicians are corrupt, and yet every time I hear about a politician being honest, everybody turns around and says they're lying. Okay, so mankind has to make up their mind. Are they going to continue to tell people to blame the media and say the media is making it all a problem, or the politicians have to come forth and say it's happening? Or are people simply going to turn around and finally go, let's go with the simple issue of, with the number of thousands of different people that have come from every walk of life that have said disclosure, that aliens are here. If only 0.1% of them are real, they're still happening. That's a staggering number of people. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, when we talk about making contact with off-worlders, well, how do you deal with it? Like, how are you going to accept the fact it's an off-worlder unless you either simply take their word for it, or you've personally gone to their world and gone, holy mackerel, this is really different. Okay, because somebody standing there telling you, doctors who are professionals can tell you, doing X, for instance, smoking, I'm just using it because it's an obvious example, smoking increases your chance, is increasing your chance of lung cancer, you need to stop. People don't stop just because a professional says stop. People don't believe just because a professional says believe.
Mm-hmm. Corrine has a question in the Space Out Radio chat room on Spreaker for you. Keith, do you believe that those outside of your frequency cannot be a good psychic medium for you?
Absolutely not. I do not agree with that in the slightest.
Why is that?
Well, for two reasons. One, because there are too many examples that I've seen personally where the person is, where what we call the querent, the person asking the question, is decidedly of a lower frequency than what the psychic is, and the psychic can hit them bang on the money. Okay, I've also seen it where the psychic is actually a lower frequency than what the seeker is, and the psychic has still hit them dead on the money. I've also seen the reverse. It's not a question of the frequency of the different psychic. It's a question of, number one, the psychic's ability to get out of their own way, to actually simply take the unfiltered information they're getting, combined with the seeker's willingness to hear something they may not want to hear. It's not a question of the frequency. It's not a question of their ability. It's a question of communication.
Then how does one find a proper psychic medium that is going to read them properly and not give them the old, everything happens in 6 months or 4 months format?
Well, the unfortunate part there is there is no surefire answer. There is no absolute formula for it. What ends up happening is when you're talking to somebody, the real key to knowing whether or not you're getting information of any use is when you get the question, or when you sit down with the psychic, if you come out of that feeling more empowered, more comfortable, more secure, not necessarily that you like what they said, but that it feels like you've got some sort of direction that you didn't have before, then you've got yourself a functional reader, a functional psychic. The trick to it really does boil down to what the person is looking for, because sometimes the question that a seeker asks is not going to be able to be answered in the way that they want it answered. Okay, sometimes it's because the seeker just doesn't have the words for it, especially when you're dealing with or not the seeker, but the psychic, especially when you're dealing with a psychic that isn't familiar with the field that you're talking about. They're not going to be able to phrase it in a normal pattern. Okay. Now, the unfortunate part, I'm actually looking at the Spreaker chat room here, and Coco is asking about someone who can prove they are truly connecting the other realms. Good luck, because unfortunately, as I put to one person, whether you call it past life memory, whether you call it mental cohesion, telepathy, life experience, the information comes in. Proving where it comes from is going to be a bit of a problem, because again, let's get back to the alien thing. How do you prove whether or not aliens are actually on the planet? Okay, they don't walk around in broad daylight on the whole. And most people that have seen them are ridiculed even by the people that claim that they want to see them, or that they claim that they believe wholeheartedly. Okay, that's the biggest problem. And it really boils down to how well people connect with each other.
Question from Eric in the SOR Space Travelers room. This will be our final question before we go to break here at the top of the hour. What is your take, Keith, on today's abductions and contact versus the agenda in the 1990s?
Well, I'd have to ask which agenda, because there's so many of them that it's absolutely insane. But quite frankly, the abductions that are going on today are still following very much the same patterns that they were before. Okay. The actual, from the off-worlder standpoint, from the ancient races standpoint, their agenda, if you will, by and large is still the same one. They're still here to understand the human genome, to try and bring them up to speed so that they can actually communicate with them, which is why the Greys developed the hybridization program in the first place. Okay, but the issue of, are they taking them to figure out how mankind is evolving? Absolutely. Are they trying to get a message across to mankind to help mankind get along with each other? The answer is absolutely they are. And that is what they are, quite frankly, working towards.
Eric was talking about the hybris agenda.
The hybridization agenda is quite literally, and always has been, and this is where the problem is, the hybridization program was designed to grow cultural interpreters. You can build a technological translator, a computer that you type in a Spanish word, it pops out a English word. You type in a Spanish sentence, it pops out an English one. But Spanish, English, French, German, all of those languages on this planet have a planetary heritage. They can all relate to what we're talking about. When you try talking about another race, you're talking about beings that come from a totally different environment. And the cultural understanding, the genetic knowledge that gets passed on from one generation to the next cannot be programmed into a computer. So what they developed was a way of hybridizing, of combining the two races so that they can actually feel the difference. So that if you've got a Grey, for instance, hanging on to a blue cup with water in it, and you have a human hanging on to a blue cup with water in it, handing it to a Grey. Now, the human will say water, and the Grey will look at that and go, well, are we talking about the action of handing the cup, the color of the cup itself, the material of the cup, or the liquid? Or some combination. They don't have a functional way of interpreting it, which is where the hybridization program comes in. Okay, that's what the agenda of the hybridization program was, and it's not just human to Grey or human to reptilian. It's Grey to reptilian. It is Grey to your Nordics. Okay, it's the reptilians to the fairy folk. It's a complete process designed to build cultural interpreters so that communication can be handled.
Keith, I'm going to get you to hold on there. We're going to step out for a break here at the top of the hour. Hour number 1 with R. Keith Andrews is in the books. 2 hours to go with the Alien Connection and R. Keith Andrews right here on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be back after this break.
Greetings and salutations, space travelers, from the Chronicles of the Unknown team.
What is Chronicles of the Unknown? I keep hearing about this thing.
It's a new paranormal reality TV show based right here in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. Follow our team as we uncover claims of activity on the Caribou Gold Rush Trail. You can also follow us here every third Monday, where 2 members of our team will be available to answer your questions. We'll give you some equipment updates and some of our experiences on the road, right here on Spaced Out Radio on the Spreaker.com network.
Do you believe you've been in contact with extraterrestrials? Have you seen the Greys, the Mantis, or the Reptilians? I am Samantha Mullet, and on the second Tuesday of each month, you can listen and learn from my experiences with off-worlders on Spaced Out Radio's The ET Experience. With host Dave Scott, we'll sit down and chat about what's going on with our friends from other worlds. We'll also try to answer your questions, so please tune in on the second Tuesday of the month, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Attention Spaced Out Radio listeners. For only $5 a month, you can join Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers. Your membership at spacedoutradio.com will give you access to private fan area on the website, get you a monthly newsletter, draws for monthly swag, and a whole lot more. Sign up today to become a part of the Spaced Out Radio experience.
Right here, this is where we divulge the fruit of our research. Here on the Webster Phenomena every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern on Spaced Out Radio. And we give it up to you guys, all the listeners, and the live listeners usually get something special and hang out in the chat room. And we love to have you. So we'll see you every Saturday night at 8 p.m. You know where.
If you're a fan of social media, you can follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can also follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR. Our YouTube channel, where our archives are stored, is Spaced Out Radio Show. And of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. Welcome back to hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thanks for listening in. If you're on the SHR Media Network, Armand and the boys and girls listening in at Paranormal Forum, on the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker, as well as on Facebook at Euphoria Chronicles, as well as the SOR Space Travelers. Good to have you all with us tonight. Our guest is R. Keith Andrews. We'll bring him on momentarily. Uncle Jimbo James Tyson with Spaced Out Weekend is in the hot seat here in the cabin Saturday and Sunday night. I have my bags packed. I am heading out for the weekend. Going to find some zen in the wilderness. Wish me luck. We'll talk to you on Monday after this show, which has 2 hours left. Reminder to you that if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, you can follow us at Dave Scott, SOR. Our YouTube channel is Spaced Out Radio Show. Subscribe to that. And of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. Want to send a shout out to some new listeners tonight, Michelle Fitzpatrick, as well as Damien. And we have Terry listening in as well. All three are new to the SOR Space Travelers. Welcome to the show. We do it every night, 3 hours a night, 7 days a week. We're glad you have chosen to spend some time with us. Much appreciated to you. We bring in our Keith Andrews once again into the Space Out Radio studios. Keith, welcome back.
And thank you for having me.
We're going to get to back to some questions from the audience here. Galen has a question for you. Keith, do you think the moon is hollow, like a Death Star?
Not like a Death Star, although it is riddled with caves. Although you're going to love this one. It's got a light atmosphere. It's not as devoid of life as people would like, as the so-called professionals would like us to believe. But is it hollow like a Death Star? Is it a mechanical construct, if you will? No, not from anything I've come across.
Why do you believe that there is an atmosphere on the moon?
Well, for two reasons. One, because of the fact that everything I've picked up around it and everything I've seen indicates it. As in, it has life on it. They just don't want you knowing about it. And it's certainly not teeming with life of the size that what Earth is. But I understand if you're dealing with a low grade environment, you're not going to get to the larger organisms by any stretch.
Gail has a question for you in the SOR Space Travelers. I think this one's a lot of fun. Keith, do you travel to other planets physically or astrally or both?
Well, both, but at different times.
Oh, you got to go into detail with this one, my friend.
Well, simply put, if I'm going physically, I don't have to go astrally. But I've had enough. One of the dead giveaways that somebody's gone off world, and you guys can check this one out yourself. When an astronaut goes into outer space, they suffer from a potassium crash when they get back here. And this is just something that every astronaut goes through. I suffer from them regularly. Okay, I also end up suffering from protein crashes for much the same reason. So when you start looking at now, we can go with the question of, have I got any medical proof of it? Well, tell you what, I grew up in a military base. You get proof. And then give it to me, because quite frankly, I haven't gotten anywhere getting anything from them. But when you take a look at the symptoms, at the complications I've had, and you compare them to what astronauts have gone through, that's about as much proof as I need to get to find out that things aren't exactly as simple as what they expect. The other issue is the other thing that is a dead giveaway for me is the number of times that I've spotted things that the professionals with the telescopes, with the information, with the access to the technology have been able to verify at the time of my telling them has proven accurate. For instance, back in the 80s was when I first spotted the fleet in the sun's inside the sun's corona. Now, the fact is, you get to figure out how I pull it together. They get to figure out what to do with it. For me, it's just a matter of that's what it is. And, like you pointed out earlier, Dave, I haven't written a book for any of this to sell. On the other hand, I did actually go and talk to a psychiatrist who told me I was totally sane. And that my mind is actually working quite well. Other than I don't handle stupid people well, which I'm supposed to apparently try and avoid. And good luck with that, apparently.
Mm-hmm. Bill Hauser has a question in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. The moon has helium-3?
Yeah. I'm presuming he was something a little bit more than that.
Well, I think, there's an explanation here, because moments ago we were talking about the moon, and you're saying that it is habitable. You believe that there is inhabitants on the moon, both extraterrestrial and I'm sure human as well, as I strongly believe there is a human jump base from Earth to the moon, and then the moon to Mars or whatever other planet that we are, or moon that we are attending on, if we could put it that way.
Yes.
Do you believe
and that is accurate.
Do you believe there's oxygen on the moon?
There is, but not enough for mankind to breathe on its own. Like, you couldn't go running around outside. Well, I guess technically you could for a very short period of time. But the genetic complications, the cellular complications caused by prolonged exposure to low gravity have been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. And therefore, they do live inside, at this point, they do live inside mechanical constructs where the gravity is brought up to 1 Earth.
That makes sense.
It's kind of a necessity when you think about it.
Indeed. Let's get to Eric's question in the SOR Space Travelers. Theories that he has researched have pointed at the Philadelphia experiment, bringing in one of the species of reptilians into this dimension. What is your view on that, Keith, and have you heard this as well?
Well, I haven't, in all fairness, heard of a specific race being brought in. That being said, I know I did do an awful lot of research into the, and I'll use the term research a little loosely, but into the Philadelphia experiment. It would not be a surprise to find things got shifted out of sync. That being said, it's not so much a different dimension as a different vibratory rate. Okay, and because of the experiment, because of the way that the Philadelphia experiment was done, it did slow down things, and it would not be a shock to find a few individual entities, if you will, being slowed down to the point where they got stuck in this vibratory rate. But as far as an actual gateway being caused, certainly not. At least not one that's held.
Well, you know what? It would be interesting to read the top secret story about what actually happened with the Philadelphia experiment, because I think there was some major snafus made on that project that they did not even predict would happen.
Oh yeah, not the least of which was the people that got melded with the bulkheads.
Joe in the SOR Space Travelers Room on Facebook would like to hear a story from you, Keith, that you have experienced personally on another planet when you traveled there physically.
Okay. I think one of the best ones that one of the most prolific, really, when I actually first went to the Srzazian homeworld, we were actually put in, the humans were put in essentially what would amount to an armored spacesuit. It wasn't because the oxygen content was off, but the atmosphere on that planet is so riddled with sand, with particulates, with crystalline, if you will, sand or small rock particulates, that it would quite frankly shred a human flesh. Srzazian's armor, the armor they actually grow handles it quite well, much like a mild sandstorm that mankind goes through in the desert. When I got there, we were told, when we first landed, we were told point blank that we had to wait until the atmosphere cycled. Now, they didn't have complete, I guess they didn't have complete security as much as they needed it, because they didn't realize how curious humans can be. And one of the guys that was with us ended up hitting the release button. Now, it just so happened that most of us, myself included, had already gotten into these spacesuits, for lack of a better term, into the environmental suits. The chap that hit the release, it only opened a crack, and when the atmosphere come through, because of the speed of the wind, it quite literally shredded his arm, very much like put your hand inside a sandblaster, and it peeled it to the bone in a matter of minutes. Well, frankly, it went to the bone. It didn't remove everything. I guess the best way I can put it is you could see the bone literally as quick as it opened, and then they slammed it shut on an emergency shut while throwing him literally out of the way, which unfortunately ended up breaking his arm in the process. When we went in, the material on their planet, what we would call the flooring, was stone, but it almost sounded like metal with the high density of the heavy metals in it, in the actual planet. And I'll tell you, some of the thing that threw me for the biggest loop was some of the animals that they've got. And they do, you can see them through the view screen where humans are allowed. And do understand, when we talk about humans being allowed, we were allowed in places that were designed to take humans, because the density and the weight of the material that these guys come from, humans on the whole can't operate. You know, trying to push a door open is great unless the door is 200 pounds and you've got to, as a full-grown man, lean everything you've got into it to push it open. I'm sure everybody has felt heavy doors in schools or in malls and what have you that are a pain in the neck to push open. But I was taken in, not on the first trip, but I did end up getting taken into the nursery. And watching the nursery, watching the way that these Strasasians the way that they handle their young is something bizarre, because they don't know who their parents are. Okay, every time a female gives birth, she comes in, she still lays eggs. They get laid in the incubator. But the children, when they're born, are born innately understanding they are there to help each other. So the first ones out will immediately, as soon as one as a child breaks the egg and literally calls for help, the other children know to go and help peel the egg open and bring them out. Okay, this is just something that they do. It's not something they're taught. This is something they instinctively know. The next age up, if you will, once the baby is tall enough, if you will, to climb out over the rail, then they're moved on to the next stage. But there is no concern over whether or not a newborn is going to try and kill the older, is going to try and kill the children in the eggs, the hatchlings. That is in extreme difference to the way Techlex operate, which are done in similar cases, but they tend to try and kill each other right from the get-go. But when I was on the homeworld, what I found was they are very geared to military. They did evolve from a military background. Everything they have has a dual or triple purpose, and at least one purpose in everything they build. And when I mean everything, I mean when we talk about a wall, okay, everything they build is geared towards conquest. It's geared towards military might. But these people do not fight on the whole. They don't have global wars. They don't, not anymore. They used to. These people operate, everything is built for war. Okay, so if there is a war, you can bet they know what they're doing, and there isn't a member of their society that is considered exempt from military service. Okay, that is one of the biggest differences. And do understand, their idea of military is defense. It used to be conquest. It isn't. It is strictly defense, but you can bet your bottom dollar if they deem it necessary to go to war to protect themselves, or in their case, go to war to protect humans, you can bet they know what they're doing. And this is why I say when people talk about about an off-worlder coming to Earth to invade it, to conquer it, there wouldn't be a war. Okay, these people, the biggest thing I found with them is if you treat them with respect, they will treat you the same way. They do make mistakes because they really do not understand. They understand humans are frail, but they go through extreme training to deal with humans before they're released into the human population. Okay, for instance, picture, if you will, you're learning how to deal with things. You're learning how to deal with picking something up delicately. So what they essentially, to put it in perspective, in order to learn how to deal with a human, from your standpoint, a Srazazian, a human comparatively, would have to learn how to pick up a shell-less egg, i.e. dissolve the egg, drop an egg in vinegar, dissolve the shell off it completely, so all you've got is a membrane around a raw egg. Now you're going to pick that egg up using razor blades and needles.
Sounds pleasant.
Well, that's how delicate they have to be trained, because if they're not trained that delicately, they'll punch holes in people.
Gotcha. Have you ever been to a planet, Keith, where there's hockey, baseball, rock and roll? Like, come on. There's got to be something out there much like us.
Yeah, Mobius.
Where's Mobius?
Actually, if you go from Earth directly to the polar opposite on the other side of the sun, in Earth's actual orbit, you'll find Mobius.
Have the Vancouver Canucks on Mobius actually won a Stanley Cup? That's what I need to know.
Sad to say, but they don't have a Vancouver. Well. So I really couldn't tell you.
Well,
in all fairness, Dave, I couldn't tell you if the Vancouver Canucks on Earth have won a Stanley Cup.
No, they haven't. You got to rub that in. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. That was a real dick move there. I'm not going to lie. Not going to lie. We got time for about one more question here before we're going to go to a break at the bottom of the hour. Let's go to Galen's question in the SOR Space Travelers, Keith. She is asking, Keith, do you know if there was once humans on Mars a long time ago, and are they still there?
Well, technically the answer would be yes, although the actual dominant race wasn't humans. But there have been humans there before, and there are still humans there. They're just not on the surface. Mars's atmosphere kind of precludes living on the surface at this point, but it certainly didn't stop them from developing society underground.
And you know what? I can confirm that because Captain K, Randy Kramer, when he was on this show, he actually confirmed that as well, that there are species that live on, extraterrestrial species, that is, that live on the outskirts of the planet. They are the ones you do not want to deal with. They are the ones that the humans who have bases set up on each pole of Mars are fighting on a daily basis. At least he was, as part of the Earth Defense Force. He said, but the extraterrestrials that are underground are very friendly. They're very cordial. They want the humans there. They want us to be there. They want to be a part of an intergalactic type society. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Something that most people may not realize, just on a quick note, when you take a look at astronomically speaking, every time Mars reaches its closest point to Earth, and you can double check the stats for yourself, every time Mars hits its closest point to Earth, UFO sightings triple. Now, that's got to tell you something about the proximity issue.
True enough. True enough. But, I mean, there's been a lot of whistleblowers come out, whether it's Randy Kramer, whether it's Andrew Bashago, whether it's Max Steele, coming out and saying that we have been going to Mars a long time. Laura Eisenhower, whose great-grandfather was the late President Eisenhower, even says she was offered to be part of a colonization during a meeting in Washington, D.C., and she was asked to go into training for it. So it is happening on a daily basis today.
Absolutely.
And they are taking, have you heard that they are taking specific bloodlines, for instance, presidential bloodlines, billionaire bloodlines, basically almost like Illuminati-type style bloodlines for these missions?
I've heard it. I just don't buy it. The reason for the thing you got to remember, would they take certain bloodlines? Yeah, because bloodlines have a tendency of being resilient in certain areas. So, of course, if you know a given bloodline is resilient to a certain type of atmosphere or to a certain type of emotional stress point or sonic stress point, then certainly you gear yourself towards taking people like that. However, when you start talking about the bloodlines that you're referring to, where the ego outweighs the intelligence, usually in a factor of 10 to 1, they don't need them out there because they cause too many problems. And that's the complication that rises where mankind is concerned.
Right. Right. You hold on for the bottom of the hour break, Keith. We're going to step out for just a few moments as we're going to take our break at the bottom of the hour here. Our Keith Andrews is our guest. He joins us the first Friday of every month for the Alien Connection. We love it when he's on. It's one of our most popular shows on Spaced Out Radio. We'll be right back after this break.
Have you ever had an extraterrestrial experience? One you just couldn't explain? Well, maybe I can help. Hello, I am Samantha Mullet. On the second Tuesday of each month, I will join Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio to bring a human aspect to ET contact. It's something I've lived with my entire life, and I'd love to help you understand. Let's share our experiences. The ET Experience, the second Tuesday of each month, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Fairies? Bigfoot? Dogmen? Trolls? Goblins? Hey, if it's cryptid in any way, I'm looking into it. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, also known as Spaced Out Radio's Crypto Guru. Join me every second Wednesday of the month on Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott, where we will talk about the stories people call tall tales. I will fill you in on the latest sightings and the hidden histories that are causing quite a stir. You can find everything at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is Jolene with Rivulet Reiki and Readings, and I want you to relax. Let me help you chill out and get in touch with your body, mind, and soul. In this busy world, sometimes we need to let go, and this is where I can help. Visit my website, rivuletrndr.wix.com/rivuletrndr, or my Facebook page, Rivulet R&R, to set up an appointment for relaxation, Reiki, or readings, no matter where you are. It's time for you to make time for you.
Would you like to expand your clientele? Have you ever thought of online radio advertising? Check out spacedoutradio.com to get your name out there. Our listeners support those who advertise with us, so why not give it a try? We have the most competitive advertising prices out there. Just click on the advertising tab on spacedoutradio.com and contact us today.
Are you an ET experiencer, but you just don't know what's going on? Are you too timid or shy to discuss it with anyone? Maybe I can help. Join me, R. Keith Andrews, the first Friday of every month on Spaced Out Radio, and I will help you to find the answers you're looking for. Together, I will help you understand the off-worlders and the true meanings behind your experiences. All you have to do is join us in the Spaced Out Radio chat room. See you there.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up, enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Hi there, this is your psychic medium Joanna, and I would love it if you would join us every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. With host James Tyson, we'll bring you personal psychic messages on two mediums and a large. Questions about love, life, career changes. We would love it if you would come and join us live. Call in and listen in for the experience. Allow us to open the doors to your other side. Two mediums and a large, heard only on Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
Do you have a topic or a guest that you'd like to hear on Spaced Out Radio? Let us know at spacedoutradio.com, where you can sign up to become a Space Traveler member today. Or you can find us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on our Facebook page, Spaced Out Radio Show. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. We're halfway through tonight's episode. My bags are packed. I head off into the wilderness, trying to find my Zen, my Chi, and maybe a ride on a UFO as I wander the mountains, but I will try and find a good Wi-Fi signal to listen to Spaced Out Weekend with Uncle Jimbo, James Tyson, Saturday and Sunday night. I'll be back on Monday with Patrick White. He runs the Conspiracy Store in Toronto, Ontario. Remember, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Our YouTube channel is Spaced Out Radio Show, and our website, getting a new look, is spacedoutradio.com. We welcome in everyone listening in on the SHR Media Network, following along on Paranormal Forum, in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker, and on Facebook at Euphoria Chronicles, and our flagship, SOR Space Travelers. Good to have you all with us. R. Keith Andrews is our guest tonight. The Alien Connection. It happens the first Friday of every month. Keith, always a pleasure to have you on this show.
Well, thank you very much. Happy to be here once again.
We're going to get to Eric's question in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. He's wondering, Keith, do you think Phobos, one of the moons on Mars, is artificial?
Well, artificial as in drug into orbit by from my understanding of it, the answer is yes. Was it subsequently, shall we say, mined or constructed from within? From what I gathered, the answer is yes. But the original moon itself was actually snagged. Like they picked it up and brought it into orbit, and then went to work building it from the inside. Kind of along the lines of mining, of building a cave network inside a mountain on Earth.
And what gives you that information?
The look of the inside of the planet of the moon. That would be the construction issue. The issue of how it came to be was, quite frankly, from some of the talking and some of the Martokians I've spoken to, that they tell of a time when it was actually brought into orbit before their original civilization buckled. because the people that are there, they used to actually have a thriving civilization on on Mars itself, on the surface, until things went a little sour. But that's in their history books. History, well, I'll use the term history books a little loosely, because they memorize their history, they learn their history. So it's a little harder where humans write it down. It's very easy to change history when you write it down. All you got to do is destroy a book and write something else, and away you go. When you're teaching entire generations about society, about the way things work, and you constantly are going back over it, they memorize their history in a very different fashion. Mankind actually used to do it that way.
Mm-hmm. Bill Cardwell in the SOR Space Travelers has a question for you. Keith, when do you think a friendly and helpful alien race will step forward and guide humans into a time of scientific growth that will truly change our future?
Well, they're in the process of trying to do that, and if it follows its current speed, you're likely looking close to the year 2100. The reason I put it that way is because they're already here trying, but they tried doing it through the political powerhouses, the so-called human leaders. Every contract that was made was broken. They tried doing it through the corporations who have the access to the modern technology, to mankind's technology, and theoretically are trying to help mankind. Turns out that the corporations that have the money and the wherewithal are some of the most greedy individuals on the planet, and therefore the time of healing, the time of of health and well-being that should have come some 50 years ago hasn't. Because here's a really wonderful one for you. The cure for cancer that everybody relies on and that all of the scientists are still researching, it's kind of like looking for your missing pet when you've got your pet sitting in your lap. They've got the cure, but they make too much money on research grants to bother releasing it. Free energy, they have the same problem. They make too much money, so why bother releasing it? Now, granted, you can't just flip it over and give free energy without a massive rewrite on superstructure, because all of society is built on the oil industry. But it boils down to when mankind starts actually treating its own neighbors, and I don't mean the political neighbors, I mean the guy that lives next door to you, the person that lives across the hall from you. When you start, as a society, treating each other in a way that is do unto others as you desire them to do unto you, then you will be able to see the benefits that the off-worlders have already done their dangest to bring. But every time they've turned something over to man to build a better, to make something a little better, mankind has turned around and figured out a way to turn it into a war machine. And rest assured, they really aren't that good at killing each other.
And killing really isn't the point. It's about it's literally about trying to, find that zen, that peace, that cohabitation.
Well, you quit you quit shooting people, and it really cuts down on the stress.
Absolutely. Joseph in the SOR Space Travelers room wants to know if you have ever figured out what happened to the Montauk Project.
Well, in all fairness, somebody's going to have to bring me up to speed on that. I've heard of the Montauk Monster, but I don't, in all honesty, know about the Montauk Project itself.
Well, the project happened on the tip of Long Island, and it was a bunch of scientific experiments that many believe were placed on humans, animals, between United States military scientists, as well as extraterrestrial species as well. There were a few people who were able to come out on that as whistleblowers. They were figured that maybe they weren't so special. Ties also into the Philadelphia experiment. Okay, it was conducted at Camp Hero at the Montauk Air Force Station on Long Island for the purpose of developing psychological warfare techniques and exotic research, including time travel.
Oh, okay. Well, that being said, it would make absolute total sense that you're looking at experiments where they would take people from every race available. The one glitch in the whole thing, in all of that, does it make sense? I don't have a lot of information, quite frankly, on the Montauk project itself. But based on what you're telling me, it would absolutely make sense that they would be experimenting on anybody they could get their hands on. If you're looking for psychological stress, psychological warfare, you have to find out what makes them what scares which race. Okay. The neat little trick with fear is that it is a delicate balance to play with, because if you push it too far, they snap, and then you've got a problem. And if you don't push it too far enough, then they don't pay attention to you. Now, where it comes to time travel, this is where the biggest misconception is. You see, moving something forward in time can absolutely be done. Moving something backwards in time cannot. Okay, it doesn't work that way. So when you're talking about working with time travel, moving something ahead and catching up to it absolutely would work. It does work. But you can't bring it back. You got to wait till it gets there. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you take somebody, now you can look back in time and see what happened. You can't do anything with it. You can't affect it. But you can look back and take a look at an image of whatever happened, or a movie of whatever actually happened, and see what occurred. But you can't do anything to affect it. Okay, if you move forward in time, which you can jump forward, but because you can't go backwards, the moment you jump forward, you're stuck there until the rest of the world catches up to you. So people, and many people have had this happen where they just cease to exist. They all of a sudden there's no record of them anywhere. They haven't died. Nobody can find them. And a few years later, they show up somewhere else on the planet. Okay, because then what's happened is the world has caught up to them. Which, yes, I realize sounds completely bizarre. And no, proving it is going to be a bit of a problem. That's one of the biggest drawbacks that humans have.
New listener in the Space Out Radio chat room.
Yes.
His name's Joshua. He is asking, what do you know about the United Nations UFO department?
Well, the United Nations UFO department is a whole lot more interactive with each other, including some of what... when you take a look at the United Nations now, don't ask me to quote which country is involved, but I can tell you this. Although the United Nations have a certain list of countries that are involved in the United Nations, the UFO department, that exploration department handling off-worlders, includes members that are not members of the actual United Nations. Okay, they are a very if you will, elite group of people, and this doesn't mean they're better than people, they're better than anybody. It doesn't mean they've got more money. It means they are a more open-minded stock of people that are able to cope with the idea that, yes, there are conflicts going on, yes, there are wars going on, but we have to work together in order to be able to function in this new world that's evolving. So there are off-world technologies and ancient race technologies and abilities that are being explored, but they're being explored with extreme caution. Not because they're trying to stop everybody from having it, so much as trying to figure out how to individually, how an individual can control the ability that they're unveiling or that they're uncovering. Okay, picture what would happen if you take a group of people and you turn them into full-blown psychokinetics without the ability to control it. Now, for the people that don't know the term, you'd more likely know it as telekinetics or mind over matter. Picture what happens if you get somebody that automatically moves things without being able to control that. Okay, there has to be a way, and this is what they're working on with other races, to figure out how to interact. Now, of course, the military-minded people are going, well, they're looking for war. No, if they were looking for war, Earth would be a charcoal city. Right? There just wouldn't be anything left. So when we're talking about the UFO, we are talking about a group of people that are actually trying to figure out how technology can be combined, knowing that combat, that defensive measures, that weapons have to be developed that can compensate for outer space, because not everybody out there is nice. Kind of like not everybody on Earth is nice. But they're not doing it with the idea of let's go out and conquer. They're doing it with the idea of let's go out and see what's out there, if you will. You know, and I love the whole issue where you take a look at Gene Roddenberry. He really was a visionary. What you're looking at is the United Nations Off-World Exploration Company is, quite frankly, trying to figure out how to do just that, while they try and figure out how to stop you guys from killing each other. Which is a neat little challenge in itself.
Eric in Paranormal Forum is wondering, he's always trying to figure out about exopoliticians. What is their role in regards to whether or not they are part of the UN? What is their role in society, trying to bring the star people towards humanity? What is their role?
Okay. The exopoliticians are not, just categorically, they're not members of the UN. The UN is humans. Okay, that's all it is humans. Now, as far as the role of the exopoliticians, it's twofold, and it really does involve humans on the same way. One is how to make sure that every race is accounted for, is given fair hearing, is given the rights. And I'm talking about, we're talking about equal rights, where every race has the capacity, or they have the ability to maintain their own culture while working inside a superstructure that is a whole lot bigger and a whole lot more complicated. Okay. One of the things that they do to make sure that occurs is they've only got 12 members at the core. There are only 12 members at the core, at the core of the whole exopolitical system. But, much as obviously that's not going to include one from every race, but there will only be one from any race that is on that council. You will never have two Nordics or two fairy folk or two Pleiadians on the primary council. Okay, it avoids the lopsided side of it, but what their job is to help make certain that that all of the races are being encouraged to capitalize on their own strengths. They're being taught how to compensate for their weaknesses or for their shortfalls, or at least how to contain them. Okay, in other words, if you take somebody, for instance, if you take a human that is an extreme claustrophobic, well, you can't necessarily get them to just get over it, so don't put them in a small room. Now, the cultural differences can be rather extreme. For instance, if you take somebody, like I just mentioned, an extreme claustrophobic, if you have an extreme claustrophobic in a human, you learn to deal with them, you help them work with it. If you have a Teklet that's an extreme claustrophobic, it'll be killed. Just outright. It'll be dinner, that'll be the end of that. Okay. Because they're of absolutely no use. They are a weakness. Therefore, they're eliminated. Now, the other issue, the other thing that they do, that they spend a lot of time on, is educating the different races about the rest of the races. Okay, so that people can get along, so that they don't by accident create a problem. Okay. The other thing that they absolutely do, and this is a little bit backwards to human thinking, but they make certain that they have two things happen where it comes to the legal system. One, it is short and to the point. If you're guilty, you're dealt with. If you're not, you're set free. There is no drawn-out, decades-long argument. Yes, some people do get caught in the crossfire. Absolutely. It's unfortunate, but it happens. The second thing they do is they keep going back over old laws to decide whether or not to hang on to them. So laws that are of no use or of no relevance are no longer cluttering the law books.
We got time for one more question here, Keith, if you don't mind, before we go to break. We got about 3 minutes left. Eric Cooper in the SOR Space Travelers room would like to ask, Keith, do you believe Atlantis is now sitting on Mobius?
No. It's not. It's actually in orbit. Atlantis didn't sink. The outlying communities of Atlantis certainly did, but Atlantis itself is a starship. And I have no doubt that periodically it goes over to Mobius, but it isn't situated there. It's not like it's parked there. And Atlanteans were not Mobians in the first place.
So, do you think Atlantis will ever find a home then? And if it is floating up in the nether regions of space, are there still people there?
Yes. Not as many as there once were, for obvious reasons. But Atlantis itself has a home. It's just not here. Okay, they came quite frankly on a deep space research run. Okay, they tried doing something before they tried doing it before a lot of the new guidelines were put in place, where they tried helping directly what people are asking about, when will the off-worlders come in and try and directly usher in a new life, a new world. And, the sad part is it's been tried before. Mankind wasn't happy with it and tried stealing the knowledge before they actually could understand it.
On that note, let's hop out for a break here at the top of the hour. We got more of your questions coming up with R. Keith Andrews. The Alien Connection comes on this show the first Friday of every month. R. Keith Andrews, our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. You're listening to the mighty SOR. I am your host, Dave Scott. We're going to hop out for a break, and when we come back, right back to your questions.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Every month on Spaced Out Radio, we look into the deep and dark reports of cryptids roaming around the world with me, Rob Morphy, from Cryptopia.us. I would love it if you would join me and host Dave Scott as we delve into the most arcane stories and reports regarding creatures of the unknown. My job is to hunt down the details and bring the evidence forward to you. These aren't your regular Bigfoot stories I'm talking about either. You can find out more about crypto history at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Is the 24-hour world starting to wear you down? Let me from Rivulet Reiki and Ratings lend you a hand. Hi, this is Jolene, and if you're in need of Reiki or a realm reading, come to my website, rivuletrr.wix.com/rivuletrr, and let us help you out. At Rivulet, I specialize in healing your body, mind, and soul, no matter where you are. And be sure to check out the Rivulet R&R Facebook page for your best deals. Remember, it's time for you to make some time for you.
Find yourself constantly looking up in the sky, looking for answers? Have you had extraterrestrial contact? Are you an abductee? Looking for answers to your experiences? Hi there, I'm R. Keith Andrews, Spaced Out Radio's resident ET expert. Join me live the first Friday of every month where I take questions from the Spaced Out Radio chat room and help you understand those from the far-off world. It's 2 hours of knowledge every experiencer should listen to. Hope to see you there.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to connect with us on Spaced Out Radio? Head to spacedoutradio.com to check out the latest shows, guests, and sponsors. And don't forget to sign up for the Space Travelers Club. You'll find all you need at spacedoutradio.com. Welcome back to the final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning in as we are broadcasting on the SHR Media Network, on Spreaker, and the Spaced Out Radio chat room. At Paranormal Forum, Lynn, Roz, Eric, thank you for sticking with us tonight. And the SOR Space Travelers on Facebook, along with Euphoria Chronicles. Everyone there, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Our guest is R. Keith Andrews. The Alien Connection happens the first Friday of every month. We'll bring Keith on here momentarily. But first, I want to remind you, follow us on Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Our YouTube channel is Spaced Out Radio Show, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. Uncle Jimbo James Tyson is in the hot seat here in the cabin. I'm leaving in an hour, heading out to the wilderness. Going to find my Zen, got my bag packed. Believe it or not, it's still bright outside up here, way up north. You know how north you are? Is when it's 11 o'clock and you can still see daylight. It's kind of cool, actually. R. Keith Andrews is our guest tonight. Thank you so much for being with us for the full show.
Well, thank you for having me.
We're going to start off with a question from Eric in Paranormal Forum, or pardon me, Roz in Paranormal Forum. And Roz is wondering, do you think any celebrities that are currently popular are alien?
Well, it wouldn't be a shock. But if, the thing you got to understand is anybody can be a celebrity, but am I going to try and figure out which ones? I don't pay enough attention to Hollywood to actually worry about it. So I really, and I certainly don't listen to who's saying who is an alien. But given the number of aliens on this planet, that would not be a shock. But we can safely say if there is one that's an off-worlder, there are only a few races that could pull it off. Okay. Primarily because of the fact that, yes, they can learn Earth culture, but let's face it. If you're looking at an octopod, they're still not going to be looking like a human, and they're not going to they're not going to be able to rise to the top of the acting genre. But it certainly wouldn't be a shock at all to find some of them, some of the Nordics, some of the, when you look at the Arcturons, it would not be hard for them to do it, given that they, essentially grew up here.
I think it's an important question that could be expanded on because there is a large influence around Hollywood when it comes to ETs, paranormal, ufological. We see what is happening, and I realize you're not big on Hollywood or music scene. I understand that. But there are a lot of stars who go to people like Jordan Maxwell, who go to people like George Knapp, who go to people like Richard Dolan or Stanton Friedman, and they ask a lot of heavy questions. And there's a lot of people who think Hollywood is so infiltrated that it could be almost a reptilian society that is running it. Would you agree with that?
Well, no. Don't get me wrong, it could quite conceivably be heavily influenced by any number of them. The reason I say not the reptilian is because of the primary reptilians, Strazozians just don't have that kind of a creative outlook. Techlacs are more interested in killing each other than they are in actually acting. The Tormenons, for people that don't know that term, if you watch, I believe the name of the show was Jupiter Rising. I think that's what it was called. They had a beautiful picture of one. And somebody clearly had seen them. Drakes don't have any interest in the fine art, in the art of acting. The geckoids are just plain too small. So we can take most of the reptilians and just write them off as an option. The only one that technically could would be the Chitawari, which are based out of Africa. Okay, and they're really not that into the modern, the human creative side, if you will. But, you're absolutely right that Hollywood has a staggering impact, and they're getting their information from somewhere, so you can bet your bottom dollar that they do have. There are a number of directors I know of that are very clearly in the know of what's going on. And with the level of their understanding, there's no doubt that they've got contacts with off-worlders, with ancient races that are helping put it all together.
Joe has a question in the SOR Space Travelers room. It says, Keith, you said that there are more sightings when Mars is at its closest. Does that mean that most of the UFOs are from Mars?
Well, in my opinion, no. But it does mean that it's a whole lot easier to make if you've got a ship that only has a certain amount of interplanetary transport capability, you're going to use a jump point that's closer. Now, since the only issue with that is it does indicate that the majority of ships are certainly coming off of the Mars planet, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're Martian. It just means that's where they're locking in.
Is there some direct route that always seems to include Mars, or is that just human paranoia or human thinking?
You lost me on the question.
Well, because every time we hear about UFOs, somehow, some way, it always revolves around Mars.
A lot of that we can actually blame Hollywood for. But it really does have to do, you have to go back to the time of caveman, when you're not quite caveman, but when they first started noticing when they started paying attention to the planets, really when Copernicus got underway and they started noticing things. Well, Mars stood out as a planet that would get closer, and then there was all these off-world sightings. And understand, even back in the time of Copernicus, they knew of off-worlders. They knew of the extraterrestrials. The abductions were taking place. So, of course, when you know they're taking place and you can't conceive that much distance, really, you take the first planet you know of that is getting close, and that would be Mars.
I just want to get to some breaking news that is coming out of the SOR Space Travelers. The greatest boxer alive has passed away, Muhammad Ali, the former world champion. He has passed away as of a few moments ago. It was announced, so I just wanted to get that out there.
Well, thank you very much for that. That was absolutely a phenomenal... He was not only a phenomenal boxer, he was a phenomenal man.
And his fight for civil rights outside, I mean, this is a man who had death threats almost every day. He was one of the only person in this world that could back up his words. And there's a reason why he was called the greatest.
Yep.
Very, very sad. We'll try and get some more information on that as the show goes on. Joe has a question for you in the SOR Space Travelers room. Can aliens do anything about the radiation from Fukushima? They like to visit this planet. Maybe they could help a little bit.
Well, technically the answer would be yes. The problem is, from their standpoint, simply put, it's not a problem. I mean, yes, it's causing a problem for man, but it's also man's problem, and nature will stabilize it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what they're trying to do is get people, the reason they're not just coming in and cleaning it up is because mankind keeps repeating the same problem.
Mm-hmm.
that's where it gets to be a bigger problem. That's why they don't just come in and clear everything up. Because mankind, I mean, how many times, and just think of this with your readers, with the listeners. How many of you will see a piece of garbage on the ground and walk by it? Or worse, drop a piece of garbage on the ground instead of taking it to an actual garbage repository? If you're not willing to clean up your own backyard, how are they possibly going to get it sorted out? Because you guys are doing exactly the same thing all over again. You haven't changed your behavioral patterns.
True enough. But do they lump us all in the same category, though?
Absolutely not.
Well, wouldn't that be what they are doing if they know most of mankind would like to clean that up? But it's the people who are running things, like the millionaires, the CEOs, that are basically just saying, let's just move on, let's forget about it, let's keep it quiet.
I got news for you. It ain't the CEOs that are saying, let's not clean it up. You realize how many parents I know in elementary schools that literally will ignore the litter box and drop garbage on the ground?
No, you're right.
So they're not lumping them all together. What they're doing is saying the problem is not going to solve itself by somebody coming in and cleaning it up. You guys have to start looking at each other and going, together we can clean it. Because the reality is the ability to clean up an oil spill in a matter of hours already exists. Okay, the ability to clean the radiation out of the water already exists. But the people in power are certainly saying we're not doing anything with it. But the people that have the real power, which is the population, are sitting back and not forcing the issue. That's where the problem is.
I just want to update people on the Muhammad Ali situation. He died tonight at the age of 74, according to a statement from the family. He was hospitalized in the Phoenix area with respiratory problems earlier this week, and his children had flown in from around the country. A funeral will be held in his hometown of Louisville, Kentucky. The city plans a memorial service, and the mayor, Greg Fisher, has ordered flags lowered to half-staff in honor. And let's remember that he suffered from Parkinson's disease that was said to be brought on by literally thousands of punches to the head over his magnificent boxing career. And you know what? He was a fighter. He was a crusader. Muhammad Ali dead at the age of 74. The greatest is gone. Let's get to a couple more questions. Let's go to the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. Daryl is asking, Keith, have you ever heard of any aliens that are all head and very small-bodied? She keeps seeing them.
The answer would be yes. Nice people, very much, as you can well imagine, very much on the intellectual side. They just are not built for physical tripping, physical work. But they don't have to be. But they are much more, if you will, research-oriented than anything else, because they don't have the wherewithal to really comprehend how humans function, which is one of the biggest things that they're here to study. Understand, when your body is as limited as theirs is, they don't have the capacity to manipulate a lot of things on a physical level. So it's all done through the mind. Okay, psychocellular kinesis is normal. Psychokinesis is quite common, which is simply the ability to move the objects to heal by simple thought process. And yeah, they are full telepaths. But they're certainly not a problem race per se.
Trippin in the Spaced Out Radio chat room would like to know, what are your thoughts, Keith, on Graham Hancock saying civilizations go farther back in the time than history says?
Oh, he is absolutely on the money. Absolutely on the money. Civilizations have risen and fallen multiple times and lost so much information in the process that's been destroyed for one reason or another. But he is absolutely right. Mankind has been around for a lot longer than what the history books suggest.
Mm-hmm. Do you believe then that creation, if God created everything, that it happened a lot further back than what we actually believe?
Well, that's about as complicated a question as you can get. Technically, the answer would be yes. But I'm going to put my foot in my mouth and let you know that, yes, what you call God created this planet. Or more to the point, what you call gods actually created the planet and became God. But he wasn't the only one that was building planets. Second of all, it definitely, mankind was built on this planet. But you got to understand that when they talk about the story of Adam and Eve, since we're going the route of God, it's not so much Adam and Eve were the only ones made, it was just the ones that were focused on. Okay, essentially, yes, they were the first ones, but they weren't the only ones.
Mm-hmm. Question coming from Eric in the SOR Space Travelers room. Keith, what is your opinion and what do you think about the Vatican's ET program?
They would love to control the way that works. But yes, they are in full contact with off-worlders. And that is one of the biggest things they don't want people knowing, because let's face it, that takes everything and turns it upside down. Until you realize that in the Bible itself, it tells you that God had many worlds and many children. The Vatican knows this, they just don't want people to realize it. And they're trying to figure out how to capitalize on it. Which, by the way, goes completely against God's teachings. But,
Mm-hmm. No, and I understand that, but recently, with the Pope and his scientific team, within the last year, they have been acknowledging, Keith, that there is probably life outside of this planet. They've almost basically said it is out there, and they even went as far as almost quoting, and I'm paraphrasing here,
right,
stating that these are God-fearing beings as well, which does make sense. So the question is, never mind prophet or anything like that, what do you think the Vatican knows about extraterrestrials, and do we know how many popes have actually had contact?
Virtually every pope since the get-go has had contact. Very few of them haven't, and only in certain circumstances wouldn't they. They are very versed in the comings and goings, not necessarily of all the different races, but certainly of the fact of the comings and goings. And, of course, in the various different religious offshoots, of the different races as well. This is not exactly a small field of study for them.
Do you think they're holding back on what maybe the true account of mankind is then?
Absolutely. You realize how much more difficult it would be to try and make everything run the way they want it to if they actually told people the truth? It tells you, everybody says that the Bible is the greatest story ever told. And the problem that you got to realize is it's been mistranslated, and this can be proven time and time again easily, that it's been mistranslated, it's been miswritten. So if you take that and you take the teachings and the way that the entire religious backbone of society has been built, if you all of a sudden take that knowledge and you turn it completely on its ear and go, oh, much as we said we were the only ones, we actually lied to you, which goes against the Ten Commandments in the first place. Do you have any idea what kind of chaos that would cause if they do it in the wrong way?
Yeah, but you could say the exact same thing about the U.S. government.
Absolutely. That is exactly, because you got to understand, the Vatican and every government on the planet, and the Vatican is just another government, they're all corporations, they're all businesses, they're all interested in the same thing. And they all have similar complications. If they turn around and go, we've been lying to you for all this time, society is going to shatter. Even though people know they've been lying, it's one thing to know that you've been being lied to. It's another to have it dropped in your lap and proven.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense. Vesna, in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker, is asking, she has heard that the so-called Nordics are not as benevolent as we make them out to be. Would you agree with that, Keith?
It depends on the clan, but she is essentially correct. Of the off-worlders, they are some of the more self-serving. They're just not as militaristic as some of the others. So they, 9 times out of 10, will have some other agenda of their own. That, yes, they will work to help mankind because it helps them. Now, you will get some of the Nordics that are actually very much in favor of helping man, of helping humans. But she is right that they are not just a categorical, the nice people.
The Nordics are much like a Scandinavian type looking race. Am I correct?
You are correct.
Okay. So, from what I have heard of the Nordics, they are quite benevolent. They are some of the ones who, according to my research, actually met with President Eisenhower and said, we will give you all the technology you want. We will give you absolutely everything you need to expand your lives into a couple hundred years, but we want you to get rid of nuclear weapons.
Yep. Because they are very much of the mindset of the hands-on approach is far more, I don't want to say effective, but it is far more ecologically effective. Okay, but they are a very generous people, but you got to remember, when you take somebody that generous, they can be just as violent. Okay.
Well, I mean, you don't want to piss them off because, I mean, let's face it, anybody can be as violent as they want to be if they are literally that much more advanced than we are. I guess what you're saying then, in more clarity, is they have that ability, but they are more grown up, if I can use that term, and know where and when to use it. It's not a threat, but it's there as a defense.
Yes, and that's actually a good way to look at it.
I actually had a power thought on that. It worked. I got time for one more question before we're going to go to break here. This comes from Eric in Paranormal Forum. How much do you agree or disagree with the theories of Zecharia Sitchin?
Well, you want to give me a rundown and I'll give you an idea? Because frankly, I've heard of him, but unlike most people, I am very poorly read.
Mm-hmm. Me too. You know, being so new in this, Eric, we apologize. If we don't know something, we're going to tell you right off the bat. We don't know. And I know the name Zecharia Sitchin. Being so new into this, I'm not familiar with his work either, so I hope you don't mind. We're going to skip over that one, and we're going to ask one more question from Paranormal Forum. This comes from Lynn, and Lynn is asking, do you know, Keith, why there are cattle mutilations?
Yeah. There's a couple of reasons for it. One, you'll notice that they are going after very specific organs, which means they are doing very delicate, very, very specific subatomic, subcellular experiments and studies to find out evolutionary tracking. There is also, with the particular organs they're taking, they also, quite frankly, are able to make certain drugs that are very useful for their peoples that are gotten through that particular organ. Okay, that particular organ, or those particular organs, depending.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that would be the primary reason for it, but it's a very specific setup. They're not looking for. It's not just random random mutilations. People call it mutilations. They call it, quite frankly, research. By the way, just before we jump to break, that last question, if he wants to put if that listener wants to put a theory that Sitchin puts in, cottons to, then I'd be more than willing to give him my opinion on it. I just sadly don't know what they are.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. My friend, we're going to hop out for a break here at the final half hour. R. Keith Andrews is our guest. He is a resident alien expert here on Spaced Out Radio. The Alien Connection with R. Keith Andrews happens the first Friday of every month. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be back right after this.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio?
Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us.
From the radio, commercials, to banners, to social media.
Have a product you'd like our host to endorse? We can do that too.
Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry.
Right here, this is where we divulge the fruit of our research. Here on the Webster Phenomena every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern on Spaced Out Radio.
Attention Spaced Out Radio listeners. For only $5 a month, you can join Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers. Your membership at spacedoutradio.com will give you access to private fan area on the website, get you a monthly newsletter, draws for monthly swag, and a whole lot more. Sign up today to become a part of the Spaced Out Radio experience.
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Greetings and salutations, space travelers, from the Chronicles of the Unknown team.
What is Chronicles of the Unknown? I keep hearing about this thing.
It's a new paranormal reality TV show based right here in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. Follow our team as we uncover claims of activity on the Caribou Gold Rush Trail. You can also follow us here every third Monday, where two members of our team will be available to answer your questions. We'll give you some equipment updates and some of our experiences on the road, right here on Spaced Out Radio.
The last Monday of the month on Spaced Out Radio is a night of psychic vision, mediumship, UFO and ET contact, Bigfoot stories, animal communication, and so much more with me, Elizabeth Anglin. I'd love it if you would join host Dave Scott and I on the myriad of topics we delve into. Every month, we share new views that may help you understand your own experiences. So tune on in at spacedoutradio.com and stamp your cosmic passport.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
Missed most of tonight's show? Don't worry, you didn't miss a thing. You can head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and download our archives for free. And don't forget to get your Space Travelers membership today. Now, back to tonight's show. Welcome back to the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're listening in on the SHR Media Network, if you're listening in on Paranormal Forum, Space Out Radio's chat room on Spreaker, and on Facebook at Euphoria Chronicles, as well as the SOR Space Travelers. We will be with you right momentarily for the final half hour. Uncle Jimbo, James Tyson, is in for Spaced Out Weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Ron Felber, author extraordinaire about the Mojave incident, will be his guest tomorrow night. I will be tuning in from a cave somewhere near the mountains, looking for a good Wi-Fi signal to try and steal off of a Sasquatch or something like that. As I got my bags packed, I'm heading out, going to look for my Zen in the wilderness. It's finally dark out here, which is very nice. 11 o'clock, imagine that. Or 11:30 now, about time. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, we can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. On YouTube, you can subscribe to our archive channel, Spaced Out Radio Show, and our website, which will have a new look here in a couple of weeks, is spacedoutradio.com. Our Keith Andrews joins us once again for the final half hour. Keith, thank you so much. You had a revelation during the break?
Yeah, I did, and thanks for having me. The question about Sitchin, quite frankly, I'm not necessarily good where it comes to names, but when it was pointed out exactly who he is, I forgot about who he is. In a nutshell, what do I think about his claim that the Anunnaki developed humans to mine for gold? I won't argue the fact that he used humans to mine for gold, but he didn't build them. The Anunnaki didn't build the humans. They were, quite frankly, they were built, don't get me wrong, well, more to the point, they were guided. But they were built by the fairy folk. The Anunnaki simply found that they repaired, that they healed extremely quick and were very good at doing the work, that putting them to use was kind of convenient. But they weren't the best miners, and they weren't the ones that did the majority of the mining. But like I said, it wasn't the Anunnaki that actually built them. They just put them to use. I think that about sums that up in a hurry.
I think so as well. Keith, there's a lot of people out there who, when they listen to you, they think, is this guy off his rocker because nobody has dealt with that many extraterrestrial species? When you get your information, how do you get it from the off-worlders?
Well, that depends on the day of the week, in all fairness. The unfortunate part is I've dealt with a lot of them face-to-face. That's just the way that is. And even to me, it is, I listen to myself telling people, and I'm going like, this is completely bizarre. Until you start realizing that when I find out about the different races, frankly, first-hand information is always useful, but you talk to people and you find out about other races. You find out about different nationalities, different schools of thought. You know, I haven't met every member, every race on Earth, like every humanoid race, human race on Earth. But I certainly know a fair chunk about the different cultures by talking to people. You know, when it comes to things like, for instance, the reproductive, the nursery method of Srazazians and Tekleks, well, that's because of the fact that I've seen them. Okay, firsthand, hung on to the eggs. I've just simply been there. Does it sound far-fetched? Absolutely. And just to put that in perspective, I spoke to an awful lot of psychiatrists and psychologists and what have you to find out for myself whether or not this was my imagination, whether or not this was real, how to tell. And the way they put it was this. If your emotional response and your terminology when explaining something is functionally correct for the time period and the situation you're dealing with an appropriate emotional response, it's a real event. Therefore, the events that I talk about, yes, I've gone through them. I absolutely agree that my life, by standard definition, is science fiction. Okay, try walking out of the morgue. Rest assured, life looks different. So when we talk about how I get the information, it really depends on the race. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to go down into the fire elemental's home and go and see what they actually deal with, face to face. I'm not going to live through it. My body won't heal that fast. However, sitting there and talking to them about it, that's easy. Okay. Have I dealt with a lot of races that, and the numbers are definitively higher than most? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean just because you haven't heard of somebody dealing with that many doesn't mean it's not real. As a matter of fact, I heard it put one day really nicely where it was said, lack of proof does not prove it didn't happen. So when we talk about where I get the information, most of it is firsthand. And then when we're talking about some of the cultural beliefs and what have you, understand I've been doing this for over 50 years. I've had a lot of time to talk to these people and amass a fair chunk of interactive information from multiple sources, not just from the races themselves, but double checking by simply talking to different races that also know them about how they see them.
I understand that, and I can appreciate that, Keith, because there is a lot of people out there who wish they could know a tenth of what you know. I know as my own experiencers, being my own experiencer myself, that looking at it, I've seen two different species.
Right.
And when you put that together, I think and like I said to Victor Vigiani last night, one of the things so many people have troubles with, Keith, when it comes to this topic, is we don't know what they are doing here. We don't know why they are taking us, especially, against our will. And we don't know why it is when we have one experience and we open that door to that experience, when we go inside that door, there's another 10 doors. And when you open each of those 10 doors, there is another 10 doors behind each of those 10 doors. It's a mystery that for many of us scares the living bejesus out of us, because every time there is one minor answer, there's 1,000 different questions that still need to be answered, and we can't find those answers. And that's what pisses a lot of people off, and that's what gets a lot of people who are experiencers or are afraid to be experiencers on edge.
Yep. And I can explain part of it. The issue of what they're doing here, I mean, that's got a varied answer to it because of the number of different races. But ultimately, the majority of them are here for research, many of them for simply the same kind of research the man does to gorillas and elephants and tigers and what have you. The other issue is trying to understand two factors about mankind that don't exist in other races. Okay. One of them is their ability to jump from a totally logical, well laid out plan where everything makes total sense, this is the exact way they should be going, and consistently mankind, and it's not just one person, if this is a racial thing, can jump off the boat, do something totally illogical, completely irrational, and still succeed, if not do better. They don't understand how they do that, and that is something that concerns them. The other part is mankind has an ability without a developed mind, and rest assured, most of the off-worlders figure that mankind doesn't have a developed mind, but mankind is able to tap into the higher senses, into psychokinetics, into psychocellular kinesis, into precognition, and see things that traditionally have needed the access to the higher mind. Mankind, in their eyes, has not evolved that far, and yet they are doing that sort of thing. That is something they are trying to understand, because that piece of information that piece of information is a critical factor when you start talking about racial security. Now, as far as why people, when they open that door, it opens another question. Well, welcome to the mystery of life. Because let's step back from the UFO thing for a minute. The moment you learn how to count and you learn how to add, all of a sudden you now have this ability of, well, what else can I do? And can I multiply? Can I divide? How do you develop all of these other doors? The saying is, the more I know, the less I know. Okay, and that applies across the board. And this is one of the quintessential markings of a child race. You haven't figured out that is just normal evolution. This unanswered or unanswerable question, because there's always another question behind it, is normal evolution. And yes, it does scare the daylights out of people.
Well, and, you know, Keith, when it comes to the fear factor, I think what people just want to know is, why are they taking us? Now, there is the theory that there is a preordained contract previous to birth that says you have agreed to this. For a lot of people, that makes no sense. Okay? It's like putting peanut butter on Jell-O. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense.
Right.
Chewbacca doesn't make any sense. Right? And yet there are people out there who see this happening. The governments know it's happening.
Yeah.
And yet there are no answers to people who are being mutilated, raped, and whatever else they're having done to them, impregnated, and then having fetuses stolen.
Yeah.
Okay. This does not sit well with mankind. And I'm not trying to fire everybody up here or become a fearmonger or talk about the fear factor, but this is reality to a lot of people in their perceived lack of acceptance to any alien race coming down here and saying, hey guys, we're here. Do you want to come join us?
Well, here's me getting myself into trouble. And this is what prompts people to ask, well, would you rather live amongst aliens than amongst humans? You know, which is really weird in itself. But people worry about being taken against their will, being mutilated, and realistically, they're being tracked. Okay, they're being implanted with a tracking bug. Humans' problem isn't that it's happening to them. It's not that it's a really critical problem per se. It's they don't like it being done to them. And yet, humans are doing it to other races without even blinking. Okay, humans do exactly the same thing to the tigers, to the dolphins, to fish, that the off-worlders are doing to humans. They're tracking them. They are testing them. They are researching them. They are finding out what kind of stress they can handle. They are checking what they're like in different environments. It's the same thing that man does to the animals of this planet. The problem is it's happening to man. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm saying it's a normal thing. It is the way that society, that different races evolve. Okay, and yes, it does cause fear. Absolutely it does. So, the thing is, as soon as people can wrap their brain around the idea that the world is, this is just another extension of your own world, it will be easier to work with it. It doesn't make it fun in any event. Okay, I've been the route. I've been on that side of the board where I had experiments done to me that were, to say the least, terrifyingly painful. Okay, I know I've been on the back end of the board. And the thing that is happening here is, while they're doing this, there is a trade-off. And it's not one that people ask for. And, I could go into the contractual thing like you mentioned, but the reality of it is this. When you go through these traumas, when you go through these experiences, they keep telling you they keep trying to tell you to calm down. Needless to say, that doesn't work as well as you might like. But one of the side effects when they are working on you is it actually triggers the human brain to evolve, making that particular human more aware of the situation, of what's going on around them in the real world, in the material world that they're used to. Yes, it's terrifying and it's absolutely emotionally debilitating when you have a child that is taken out of utero. Okay, but they also do their best to help the particular female cope with it, and in many, many, many cases, they actually try and reunite them after the child has achieved a certain level of functional ability.
Question from Roz in Paranormal Forum. He is asking, Keith, do you know what the next biggest technological breakthrough will be from technology that we believe aliens have given us?
Do I know what the next technological breakthrough is going to be?
Yes.
Yeah, they'll finally release the idea of zero-G gravity, of zero-G maneuvering, which will end up developing into multi-tier roads without roads. They'll be operating on a magnetic, essentially a magnetic road that doesn't actually have any, that isn't ecologically devastating.
Eric has a question in Paranormal Forum. Do you think they look down on us like we do on them and research? Pardon me, I read that wrong. Do you think they look down on us like we do on research animals? Do they not recognize our science or sentience, pardon me?
Not any more than you do the tigers. Not in most cases. There are some races that do, and there are some of the individuals that certainly do. But in all fairness, to them, for the most part, you're a child. Like, you're less than a child in a lot of cases. See, they look at the fact that you don't recognize certain races as being extremely intelligent, extremely sentient on this planet, and therefore they figure you can't be quite as bright as what you're claiming to be. And since you're already overstating, what they end up doing, and it's a misunderstanding, because mankind has said, "Oh, we're so bright, we're so smart." And the off-worlders are going, well, if you're so smart, why haven't you figured out that dolphins, pigs, and dogs all are actual sentient individuals, and so are whales? And therefore, since you think you're that smart, obviously you're not. So when you say that you understand that we're here, well, clearly you don't. Man's ego has created a massive problem for itself. But on the whole, man is looked at as a animal. You want to treat it decently, hence why they try and calm people down, hence why they cover why they do the overlay on the memories to help them cope with day-to-day life. The theory is that it'll work. The reality is it seldom does. And yes, that is something I've had many conversations with these people about, because their methods that they're working on don't work. Not for memory burial anymore.
I agree. I fully agree. We got about 5 minutes left with you tonight. Keith, when it comes to people having the experience, let's reverse the role. Are we experimenting on any aliens?
Yes.
How do we get them?
Well, quite frankly, aliens are not that hard to come by. There's enough of them down here. Oftentimes, they are, frankly, kidnapped off of a research site, or in the case of an accident, they are kidnapped and held in an incarcerated facility. Okay, where, basically the difference of what mankind does to aliens as compared to what aliens do to mankind. Picture a modern operating room. That would be the aliens. And mankind uses something out of the 13th century. Okay, mankind's method of experimenting on aliens is, under, in simplest terms, barbaric and brutish. However, that's not a slight against mankind. That's just the way that's just their evolutionary process at this point. But mankind is not innocent. Mankind experiments on its own people. Okay, that is the real tragedy of it. Mankind experiments on its own people in ways that make what the off-worlders are doing look like a walk in the park. I mean, the experiments that the off-worlders do, and don't get me wrong, I know how traumatic it is for humans. Okay, I know how traumatic it is for the different races that are being abducted. But what mankind does, quite frankly, on top of being horrendous what they're doing, is it's absolutely hypocritical. Okay, so are they being experimented on? Certainly. They have been, you take the Greys, for instance. They've tested them for light sensitivity. Well, their eyes are huge. Okay, they're designed for low light. Of course it's going to cause a problem when you shine an airport spotlight in their eyes. But they do that regularly to see what the reaction is. To see if there's a weakness. Aside from the fact you shine a light that bright in somebody's eyes, of course it can't see. Okay, you take the seafaries or any of the waterborne races, and humans will leave them to dry out just to see how long it takes for them to die. Now, I may sound like I'm being brutal towards what people are going through, and that I don't feel for the humans that are going through it. Quite the contrary. I absolutely feel for the humans that have gone through it. Been there, done that. It is not a fun ride. But we have to understand that mankind, that humans, are not as innocent in this as what they would like people to believe. And this is why I get in trouble, is because it sounds like I'm saying humans are such a lousy race. Actually, they're not. They're quite an incredible race. And they've got potential that is absolutely mind-boggling. But you got to understand that mankind has evolved to where it is by being brutal, by researching things. You know, that is quite literally the way they operate. So yeah, there is no question on the other side of the foot, mankind is studying, is dissecting, is torturing other races. But in all fairness, mankind is doing it to mankind as well. Okay, I know of places on this planet in the first world countries where they still lobotomize schizophrenics. Okay, because they figure that's a good move. So, you know, we are dealing with some pretty touchy areas, but you got to realize this doesn't condone what the off-worlders are doing. It simply explains it. And when people start realizing that everybody can actually work together and pull out a lot more information with a lot less stress, they'll be a lot better off.
On that note, my friend, it's time to wrap things up. Thank you so much for being on our show tonight, Keith, for your monthly appearance on Spaced Out Radio. Always good.
Well, thank you once again for having me, and thanks so much for the many extremely intriguing questions.
It was all over the map tonight. It was good. It was good. I enjoyed that. Always a pleasure, Keith. We'll talk to you soon, my friend.
Absolutely, Dave.
Our Keith Andrews, the Alien Connection. First Friday of every month, Keith comes in here and discusses what is going on with ET species. We try and mix it up. We always have your questions going in. Love them or hate them, Keith is always bang on. Absolutely love him. He'll be back next month, July 1st. Canada Day. We're going to be waving the maple leaf, Keith, next time you're on. Absolutely. It's going to be a blast. Want to say thank you to everyone listening in on the SHR Media Network, on the Space Out Radio chat room on Spreaker, Paranormal Forum. You know who you are. Thank you for tuning in. Even you, Armand. I know you love this one. And on Facebook, the Euphoria Chronicles and the SOR Space Travelers, especially all of our new listeners that joined us tonight. It was a good night for newbies. Absolutely loved having you. Reminder, you can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott SOR. Our YouTube channel, subscribe to it, is Spaced Out Radio Show, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. Much love to all of you. Come around on the weekend. Uncle Jimbo, James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend launches Saturdays and Sundays. Elizabeth Anglin hosting the first hour of the show, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. I'm back in the hot seat on Monday. My bag is packed. I'm heading into the wilderness. Good night.
ice are waiting for you to break. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching. We watched you